Welcome back to the Relationship Blueprint, where you unlock your power of connection. We're really happy to be with you today. I want to begin by acknowledging that the topic of this episode, healing from sexual abuse that began in early childhood, is deeply emotional and can be activating. Before we go any further, a strong trigger warning. Today's conversation includes discussion of sexual trauma and may bring up intense feelings, memories, and sensations for you. If you have children nearby, please consider listening at a different time where you have a private space and feel supported. Your emotional safety and nervous system really matters to me. And before we meet our guest, I also want to briefly situate this in the wider world perspective. In the last few weeks, newly released documents known as the Epstein Files have dominated international headlines, promoting investigations, resignations, and scrutiny in countries across the globe. From France, opening probes into human trafficking and financial crimes linked to those files, to coordinated investigations by British police following revelations tied to the records. Some United Nations experts have even suggested the scale of these abuses in these files could reach the legal threshold of crimes against humanity, and they're calling for a thorough, impartial investigation. This widespread attention from Europe to the United States and beyond reflects how pervasive systemic sexual exploitation can be, and why survivor voices are so urgently needed. And today we are deeply honored that Destiny is here with us. Destiny and I met many years ago, and she was only 14 years old. And while she has not been a client of mine for many, many years, we have stayed connected. Destiny expressed she wants and is ready to share her story. Hi, Destiny. I'm so happy you're here with Lucy.
Thank you so much, and thank you for allowing her to join us this morning.
And she's a wonderful dog.
She is. She is truly an angel to me, for sure.
Yeah. Tell us more about that. Tell us more about how Lucy helps you in this moment and others. It just feels so important to talk about resources that we all have to help us through really difficult times. Tell us about Lucy, what she does for you.
So, dogs have always been, as you know, I had a Chihuahua before in my life, Bowberry Biscuit. Feel it is need to honor him. And he actually he was alongside me during a lot of the trauma. And so I feel as if as we were speaking like yesterday, the co-regulation is so real. She's gonna get situated. She's just like, where are we? But I recently adopted Lucy because we lost Bowberry around 2 years ago, and I've been wanting another small dog. And as you know, I also have Luna, who has been another angel to me, and she is a very high active dog, so helps me, kind of in other ways. And it's just incredible how animals can heal you in a way that not a lot of people understand.
Yeah, I certainly do understand. And I watched you with Bowberry and also with Luna.
Yeah.
Like she runs with you,
Yeah,
a lot of exercise for you that I think that Luna can provide.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that this Lucy provides someone to hold.
She loves to be like held closely, and I swear, like, it's just weight, like the weight of her is like just every weight is lifted off my shoulders. I really don't know how to explain it besides that. And also I've rescued her, so she was kind of out of a bad situation, and gaining her trust has been one of the most beautiful experiences really I've experienced in just this little 3 short months that I've had her.
Oh, I love that. And I think that seeing your joy with her and knowing how much comfort, please don't worry if she squirms.
She'll get comfy.
She's great.
She's totally fine.
This is what dogs do. This is what children do. And it's kind of what we wish we could do. We get very trained sit a certain way, look a certain way.
We are conditioned 100%.
But I was thinking about what you said about how she helps you and you help her co-regulate. And
Absolutely.
you said something about the healing part of helping earn her trust.
Mhm.
And also it made me think of the famous Dr. Harville Hendricks, who says that we are born in connection. We come from a mother.
Yeah.
We have this connected feeling for 9 months, then we leave mother, hopefully into the arms of someone who can hold us and tend to us. So there's the connection there, and then we're wounded in connection.
Yeah.
And then it's the people so much that are around us that we love as babies and children, that we as children strive to connect with, and oftentimes are wounded in that connection. And then the beautiful part is that we also heal in connection. So we're born in connection, wounded in connection, and also healed in connection.
It's absolutely crazy how that works, isn't it?
It really is. Destiny, I want to thank you for the courage to step into this space today and share your story, not only of the survival, but recovery from what you've been through, because I've had an intimate look in your early life, and having the opportunity to watch you grow, really acknowledge your story, and then being able to share it and wanting to share it so that you can help others has, touched me deeply.
Thank you so much for saying that. And you were a very, very big part of that. So thank you so much.
What you carry and how far you've come matters not only to you, but to many people listening.
Yes, I believe so.
Many people, because before the age of 18, 1 in 4 girls will be sexually abused. And we're going to talk about your early story today about, and also hopefully build in some time to talk about memory. And for our listeners, this may be a 2-part series, because I don't want to push Destiny any further than she needs to go today. And sometimes taking these stories in pieces is really helpful.
I agree. I never forgot the thing that you said about small doses.
Yes, that we can tolerate many things in small
Absolutely.
doses.
And I find that works very well for me. So, yeah.
One of the things that I want to share with our listeners is that when I met Destiny and I heard her story at 14, I was very touched by our connection, that I don't think it was an accident
I don't either.
that your mother found me.
No.
And through yoga, and that we had this connection because we shared a lot of history that helped, I think, me get in touch with your pain pretty quickly.
Yes. A funny memory I can share with you really fast is I actually remember the day that my mom brought me to see you when I was 14. So I was like, and then I met you and I was like, no, I connect with her and I'm very excited for our journey. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's unusual. You were a client who always came on time, even 5 minutes early, always prepared, ready to do the work.
Thank you.
I mean, I've worked with literally thousands of kids in my lifetime. And I was struck by that determination to heal.
I'm not sure how. I just kind of think now is just, but God was there, and little voice in my head was like, this is good for you. Even if I, at the time, which I never really was, I was much deeper than that, but I was different than my peers, but I was like, maybe I could be too cool. I deep down always knew I was like, this is very needed. It's going to help me one day, and I can't explain to you how much it's helped me in my adult life, all the tools.
Yeah. And then I think, for any young listeners that are listening and older listeners, you can be 65 and start to attack this very scary thing that has happened in your life, and tools help. I mean,
oh yes,
people are like, well, what can therapy do to help me heal? Well, I think Destiny's going to talk a little bit about that, but more importantly, just if you thought about skill building, because who prepares you in life for these really hard things that happen to us, whether it's divorce, sexual abuse, domestic violence. It's all something that each person navigates on their own, and without tools just makes the whole process so much harder.
And unfortunately, without tools, a lot of people tends to lean towards things that are not good for them,
Right,
like drugs and alcohol.
sure. So that's a great point. So what you're saying is that without skills, and even with skills,
Absolutely.
the trauma is the trigger underneath
Absolutely.
to drink, use alcohol, be really sexual,
Yes.
give ourselves away, all kinds of things that happen,
Yes.
that unless we really develop those skills, it's really hard to save ourselves from those outcomes.
Because that's an immediate way to numb yourself.
And numbing, pretty important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before you begin your story, and you may or may not need this, would you like a centering, or do you feel like you're ready to begin?
Let's do it.
Okay. And this is, if you're listening at home, please do centering with us. So if you could just put your feet on the floor. And Des, if you're comfortable, close your eyes and lower them. And if you're not, please keep them open. If it feels safe to do so, please take a deep breath with me. Notice the support beneath your body. Let your shoulders soften just a little. And if they're really tight, pull them up to your ears and squinch them together, and then just release. And you can repeat that as many times as you need, because often our nervous system will get our shoulders really tight, and we don't need them to be tight. So we breathe in and let go. And as you breathe in again, let a stop, really strong exhale slowly be released from your body, letting go of anything you no longer need. Notice right now that you are here, you are with me, you are in the present, and you are safe enough. Destiny, before we talk about what happened, I want to talk about how you are today.
As you know, I've always dealt with anxiety, as I have, and I think I've prayed continuously for maybe since we met and we discussed doing this. Because I even have anticipatory anxiety, like I know on that day I'll be anxious. And this morning I woke up, my dad came into the room, we said a prayer. He's helping me get ready, does Lucy's outfit look good with my outfit? We're having so much fun,
Right.
And I love dressing her up, by the way. And it was just so much fun, and I was just like, I'm 26 now, so it's absolutely crazy to think that we met when I was 14. And I was talking to my dad about this. So actually, when you asked me to do it on this day, this is a special day for me, February 19th. This is actually the day that I moved back last year. And just this whole kind of year, I've felt as if something like this was coming. Not sure if God was preparing me or telling me, like, I wasn't sure what. And this morning I woke up and I'm writing my book, and my dad always says the advice. I'm like, what if, it's going to make people mad, whatever. He says, tell the story exactly how it happened. Mm-hmm. And, he came in, he tells me that often when I'm writing, because it gets in my head, and sometimes it's hard to write because it's almost as if you're reliving it.
Yes, absolutely. But do you feel the writing has helped prepare you? Because I love what you said about praying to God.
Mm-hmm.
Because you and I have talked about asking for a good, orderly direction, which is the word, the acronym God.
Yes.
Good,
I love
orderly
that.
direction.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
And, when you do that, I think you would have also known, hey, I'm not ready to do this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There was, around 4 years ago when I sort of decided to accept everything, I was not ready. I knew that I would be one day though. And while I may cry or, it's emotional, like I am ready to share this story, not just for me or for little Destiny or for little Kat, and for little Dave, who also had horrendous childhoods.
So little Kat and little Dave are Destiny's parents who met each other as teenagers,
Yes.
fell crazy in love, and from their crazy in love came you.
Yes. And to sum it up, while of course there's shitters and everything, and as we spoke yesterday, I was like, is this is an X-rated story, is that okay to share? And like I've shared with you, it makes me feel it has made me feel very dirty, and I don't label that anymore. But I'm finally like, no, even if it is crude or hard to hear, like this story will help somebody else on the other side of this screen or listening right now. And that's what that matters to me.
And you talked about your writing your book. Do you have a title yet?
I do. I've decided to call it Barely Breathing.
Wow, barely breathing.
Yes,
And
barely
so,
breathing.
as you've worked on the book, though, I'm wondering how the writing has helped in your recovery process.
It has helped tremendously. I think I've told you since I've known you, I've kind of always known, kind of like I knew I was going to be ready for this, just wasn't then. Since I was very young, it was actually my seventh grade writing class, so right before I met you, I decided to write a book, and this time I still am very obsessed with literary devices, and I was like, I'm going to call it Gloomy Like an Unforgiven Child, because that's how I felt. Always gloomy, as if I was unforgiven, or always doing something wrong, or upsetting somebody, which therefore made me very hypersensitive to everyone around me, and very numb. Because when you're a child of emotionally unavailable parents, it makes you a emotionally numb child than an emotionally numb adult. So I've had to really learn how to unwire that.
Wow, so this is an experience of unwiring. And
Yes.
we are going to be talking about that as well. This whole idea of our nervous system getting wired very early. And when these early traumatic events happen, it's all stored in the body.
100%.
Yeah, Destiny was one of the students, I would say, that would read anything I gave her. And
Yes.
the
Psychology nerd.
yes. And me too,
Mhm.
because I think it's the unconscious desire to heal
100%.
that brings most therapists into this chair.
Absolutely. As you know, I've considered becoming this as well. I've taken a step back due to helping some family, but I believe it's in the future. But when I was receiving my bachelor's degree in psychology and I received it from USCB, I remember sitting, in my, say, Psychology 101 or early developmental psychology, because there was no psychology classes in my high school. Yet I was very interested in it. That's when I dove into poetry, and you remember all of that?
I do remember.
But I remember just whenever I was sitting in my psychology class, it was almost like every time my teacher said something, I felt validated. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very hard, especially because you're an only child and you're the only one living in the sickness.
Yeah.
And so when your mother, I remember, would say things and it felt to you like gaslighting, but you weren't sure because you didn't trust yourself.
I never trusted myself until recently, honestly.
Yeah. Well, it's because what does a child naturally do? They trust their parents. Who else would they trust?
Yes.
And so the natural trust, so that if you say the sky is green and I think it's blue, it's probably green.
Oh, 100%. And yes, I was an only child from my two parents, but then I basically took a major role in raising my three half siblings.
I know you did.
Yes. So that's a big part of a lot of this. Sort of feeling responsible for their needs. I remember, I write about this in my book. I don't want to say their names just for their privacy, but my first brother, when he was born, I was 7. Oh my gosh. And I remember, I had already been abused by both people, my uncle and my babysitter, I think you remember. And that happened when I was 2 to 3, younger than 2 to 3, unfortunately, and then 5. And when my brother was born when I was 7, I just had this almost primal desire to protect him,
Oh.
even as a 7-year-old. And, I've worked in clinics for children now, and I'm looking at these 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, and I'm trying to imagine myself as 7, holding this infant, just knowing that I felt like a lifelong duty to protect him, and then my brother, and then my other sister.
It makes so much sense to me, Des, because no one protected you.
Yeah, no.
And somehow, even at 7, you knew no one was protecting them.
No. And of course there was precautions taken when things were said and stuff, but emotionally I really never felt safe. Ever. Until recently.
Yeah, I love that. So as you think about sharing this story, I want you to start where you'd like to begin and whatever feels safe for you, and then we can stop anytime you want.
Thank you so much. You have to go a little sip of water.
Yeah.
Lucy's finally calmed down too, and she's just her calm heals my calm.
Well, yes, I can feel your energy is very calm right now.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy that you brought Lucy, and also that you came to this, in 4 years, you've done a lot of work to be able to sit in this chair. And I want
100%.
to just kind of highlight that for our listeners, because if you have a story, it doesn't mean you're ready to go on a podcast. I mean, there's a lot of work that Destiny has done. You've worked with other therapists after me when you moved to North Carolina. Yes. And since then, you've really done a lot of work. Yes. And your writing. I have to say to our listeners, I loved the Destiny journal. I would ask Destiny, write this in your journal, process during the. I know you were so worried about someone finding these journals. They ended up in my office in a file cabinet for quite a while.
There was like this many.
That's true. It took up a lot of my filing cabinet.
Thank you.
But we protected the stories, which you've said has helped you write your book.
It has. And I always knew, I started keeping a journal, and I want to say thank you to my mom to this. She called it the safe journal, and I still have that safe journal. And I, just terrible things happened, and I remember writing about it. And the other day when I was preparing for this, I prepared for this a lot, and I was reading it, and to see my little 5-year-old handwriting. Oh. It was heartbreaking, honestly. And when I published my book, I did plan on publishing it. And sometimes, I think I said to you yesterday, I'm afraid to make anybody uncomfortable. Because it's a crude story.
It's interesting you use the word crude. Expand on that for me.
It's a story that makes you feel sick to your stomach.
You mean for you to tell it or for us to hear it?
I would think both.
You think so?
Yeah. But to go back to the journals, I think I mentioned to you as well, whenever I was reading these, and I have pretty sloppy handwriting. Unfortunately, I'm probably the only one that can read it. And I was reading them, and every single time I start it off by saying, which I kind of want to start this off by saying, like, I have no idea how to. It's always something like, I have no idea how to start this story. It's so sad. It makes me sad. I'm shaking. That's why I love to have Lucy in my lap, because when I tell the story, I shake a little bit. It's just like a natural response.
Absolutely.
And I've shamed myself for that, People have told me, just get over it, You're this, you're that. I'm like, I'm a warrior. You don't understand. It's like, I'm not saying that out loud right now, but I know I am.
I love that you're a warrior.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's that when you said about people think it's crude, I can only speak for myself, but when I hear the story, I never think of the word crude. I think of the word innocence stolen.
Thank you. That is exactly how I feel about my innocence. It was stolen.
But it makes sense that you would label it crude, because I remember you as a little girl, you're 14, but still that's a little girl.
For sure.
Saying I feel dirty. And at the time your consciousness had not been tapped into where you could really recall what happened, but your body knew, you knew,
I did know and I didn't.
but you didn't know
Yes.
why.
That's where I loved receiving my psychology degree, because when I learned that when you're so young in your formative years, I mean, what happened to me with my uncle, who I've never shared publicly, but that happened to me before I was 2 years old. And then I believe it ended around when I was age 3. And when I learned in psychology that your brain protects itself, and when I kind of allowed myself to remember, I was like, of course. But with that being said, my body did always know, and it was almost like it was like I wanted to tell you so bad, and like it was on the tip of my tongue. But I, similarly to many other victims, felt as if for some reason I would get in trouble.
Yeah, of course.
And
Because of the shame factor.
It's-
You would say, I feel dirty. And this was, you were 14, you liked boys, I
Yeah.
mean, so there was a sense for me, what is this about? Because
I
I
know
was trying to
I
connect
said it
dots.
to you so many times because I was like, am I dirty?
Yeah, right. Well, reassurance from me that you weren't dirty, but in the context of high school behavior,
Right.
clearly you were perfectly normal.
I know. I really did not do bad things in high school.
You're really like a really good girl.
I know.
And but so it didn't match up this dirty thing until years later, after you were no longer my
Right.
patient, but we've stayed connected.
Absolutely.
Where you were able to tell me your whole story.
Yeah.
And it just it makes me think you just weren't ready.
For sure.
The brain does protect itself. And I have a dear friend who developed a severe eating disorder, and it wasn't until she got help for that in her late 20s. She was a virgin at like 25 because of this.
Yeah. I understand that.
It was then that she recalled that it had been her brother. And she loves her brother, right? So loved your uncle.
Absolutely.
And so that's why this is such a complicated thing, because there's loyalty issues involved and
Absolutely.
protecting people and all of that.
I felt this really weird sense to protect him as well.
Of course, and naturally. If we think about that 2-year-old's blueprint forming in the midst of trauma, what beliefs about safety or trust and worthiness do you think got wired in? And how are you rewiring them in your recovery?
Okay, so are you asking like when it would happen, or?
Well, if you want to start there, let's start where you'd like to start. So at 2 years old, you didn't know this at the time,
Right.
but now that you have put the pieces together,
Yes.
tell us about the story.
So when I was 2 years old, I went back and forth to my mom and dad every other day. So yeah, and until it was placed when I was 5 years old that they would then share joint custody of me, and I went back and forth week to week until I turned 14, and I lived with my mom until I turned 18, and then I moved out of my mom's house, and then for the year of senior year, I lived with my dad. So that's just a little background. But
Could you pause there for just
Yeah.
a second? So what I want to just emphasize for our listeners is going back and forth, one house to another, every other day it's surprising to me that the courts let that happen, but yet I want to say that even if you had not suffered from the sexual abuse, that alone would alter your nervous system.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I called it the switch. The switch between parents was always traumatic for me. I always felt from a very young age. I was abused at a very young age, so I therefore turned on my survival instincts. I became very independent. My dad said I was potty trained before the time I was 1.5.
Hmm.
And I was very protective of my body because I did not really feel safe. And so, yes, but when the switch would happen, I would feel guilty to leave the other parent, and then the other parent they were very young and not in a place to raise a child.
Yeah.
Is what I would say. And so, anyways, when I was with my dad, when I was very young, we lived at my grandparents' house, who I actually have very incredible memories with. Those were my dad's grandparents, so technically my great grandparents. And my uncle also lives there. And so when I write about this in my book, it's kind of funny. The first thing I remember when the abuse was about to start was I loved my uncle. Let's make that a known factor. He was the fun uncle. He absolutely loves to play with us. He was so much fun. Like played monster, tickle monster, run around the house. He was a big kid. And the first to last thing I remember, when I was beginning to be abused each night that I was staying at my dad's house, and then my uncle would come get me, was there was this coffee table that sat underneath this mirror that like you saw as you walked up the stairs to his room. And downstairs was my dad's room, my room, and grandma and grandpa's room. Um, and I would see these feet of this coffee table as I would walk up the stairs, and I remember they kind of looked scary to me. I always thought they kind of looked scary, and they were. They had like funky feet on them. I don't know. And we would go upstairs to my uncle's room, and we would play a game. I loved to play Tickle Monster with him, and so did he. And he would always give me candy, which I later learned was Xanax. Specifically out of a Tic Tac container. And after that, the memories go very foggy. And while my mom and I unfortunately have, is what I like to call it, a painfully beautiful relationship, I would like to state, if she ever listens to this, that I love her very much. She was very young, and I went to her and I said, Mommy, I want Daddy's friend to stop touching me at night. It hurts. I want it to stop. So I'm under the age of 2, and my mom is 23. And she had a temper. Also, she was Mama Bear.
Mm.
And her baby just told her this. And my genitals were very, very, very irritated when I would leave my dad's house, unfortunately, and not when I left my mom's house. My mom has always been a hippie. As you can tell, I've kind of taken after that style, and she always made sure that we had very, clean soap and everything. And so at first we kind of thought maybe my dad just using some soap that doesn't respond well with my skin. I do have sensitive skin, but my mom later took me in to have a rape kit done at Hilton Head Hospital. I haven't gone to see the papers yet, but it actually is still an open case because there was never a conclusion. So I'm under 2 years old, and I have heard this story from my grandmother, who has unfortunately passed away, but she was a very influential figure in my life. And she was there, and my mom is a mess. So she was kind of, just there with me. And I remember her telling me that it was the most traumatic thing for her. And when something like that happened, I kind of just went mute. So during this rape kit, they found that my hymen was still intact, but I was being penetrated very slightly. And anyways, long story short, my uncle was a very smart person, and I believe that he sort of stopped, because it happens every other night, for a long time. I believe that he stopped when he thought I would no longer remember in my mind.
Let me make sure
Yeah.
I've got that. So you believe that because he was so smart, he stopped at a certain time because then he really kind of knew you would tell.
He knew I would probably say, like, I called him Timbuk, Timbuk and I, because he called it a fun game. Timbuk and I do this fun game, and I'm sure any parent would, respond to that.
So after the rape kit, your mom let you go back with your
Well, no. After the rape kit, my mom, this could be incorrect, but what I have heard from the story and read from the files is that my mom told my dad that she was going to kill him. because I was being abused at his under his
Yeah,
care.
on his launch, yeah.
Honestly, rightfully so. So she actually got sent away for a couple of months.
Oh my gosh, so because she threatened that, she wanted to kill your dad, you're her baby.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
she wants to protect you from this environment, and they put her away.
Yes.
Who is the they? Who did that? Or you may not know.
I honestly don't know, but all I know is that she went away to rehab for a couple months because I believe at the time, unfortunately, she was also into some drugs as well. So they sent her to rehab.
And your mom had had her own
Absolutely.
big story, lots of wounding, a beautiful woman.
Yes.
I
I actually hold, now that I understand, both of her parents have now passed away, but and I would like to speak to that. Both of my parents had truly horrendous childhoods. Um, there was abuse on many levels, and that then, like we said, led me to be abused.
Yeah, it's the generational work.
Absolutely.
And you've said before that part of your story is that you want to be the person to break that cycle.
Yes, that is mostly the main idea of my book is that, I love my mom and dad so much. Um, I would also say that's a little bit of a trauma bond.
Sure.
But I do love them so much, and I want to break this cycle. And I've unfortunately and fortunately learned that that is not an easy job.
No, it is not an
It
easy
is
job.
not easy.
And you were talking about your dad too, and that so he left you alone with Tim Buck. And where was your dad during all this time?
Both of my parents were pretty big into partying, I would say, until I was 4 or 5. So I was raised a lot by my grandmother, who was my mom's mother, and left a lot with my grandparents when I was at my dad's house. And to be transparent, my grandparents, those grandparents, they were kind of bedridden. Like I was watched, but Timmy had the easiest way to come and get me. Once they went to sleep and Tim's like, "Want to come play?" I'm like, "Of course."
Of course, yeah.
I mean, he had the snacks, he had the games, he was grooming me. And that's something I've really struggled with because now, and I'm able to say this and not feel shameful about it because I know that once I'm ready to explore a relationship again, I will, and I will not enter that until I'm ready, but it has given me such trust issues.
Sure, of course. So the beloved Uncle Tim, the fun uncle,
Yeah.
the one that gave you candy and played Tickle Monster and all the things that little kids love.
Oh yeah. And he was more than the fun uncle. He was very, very, I want to make sure this is known, involved in my life and until he went to jail.
Where is your uncle now?
He is at a prison in Columbia. I believe it's actually in Allendale, South Carolina, and he's spending the rest of his life there.
So is he there? I know this answer, but I'd like you to tell our listeners, is he there because of you, or is he there because of some other crimes that he's committed?
He is there because of other crimes, and unfortunately, other victims were also hurt from him, and he is there because of that. That is another reason why I've been hesitant to share this story because, people will say, are you making this up? Do you want the clout, is what this generation would call it? Do you want the attention? And I've also been very fearful to be judged. But like I said, when it all kind of came out, I was 19. So I had no idea who I was or and that's when I started smoking a lot of weed.
Yeah. Well, your identity gets sort of shattered,
Absolutely.
this realization, and then you just said, who am
Absolutely.
I? And who am I in this context now with all this awareness of what's happened to me? And the very people that you've described, your grandmother, her husband, your grandfather Parker, who actually paid for all of your therapy,
I
which
know.
was amazing,
It
right?
really was.
Uh,
He never even questioned it. He was like, "Where's Colleen's check? I need to fill it out."
yeah, I mean, that was really amazing. That is, as much as in a way they had to hide,
Yes.
they never, they wanted the best for you.
Yes.
And I think your mom did too, or she wouldn't have found me. I think it was hard for her
Yes.
later on because
Yes.
you were speaking up more.
Absolutely.
But I'll never forget, your mom coming to me and saying, "Will you please see my daughter? I'm so worried about her."
And I'm very thankful that she found you. Of course, it did get a little hard between us whenever a lot of our topics became about her, but mother daughter. But Kitty and Parker, I'd like to say this. I feel comfortable saying this. I feel were very bad parents to my mom. They abused her greatly, and then whenever my mom had me very young, I often wonder if they felt like they had this second chance. And which of course then put a strain on my mother and I's relationship because I don't believe this, but oftentimes she felt as if I was everything that they wanted from her. I was incredibly studious. I was incredibly polite.
Yes.
Um,
I'm sorry. It's with, and because that of course comes from that shame factor.
yes.
I'm sorry, and just be a good enough girl
Mhm.
so that you wouldn't suffer your mother's wrath.
I mean, yeah, that and so many things. And so I learned very quickly that I was the peacemaker. And I learned very quickly that my problems didn't matter, and therefore that's when I realized I was so thankful I had you to talk to because truthfully, I could not speak to my mom about anything when I was in my teenage years because she was in a place where she just could not handle it. She was going through so much on her own that she couldn't even handle it. That's where a lot of pain comes from our relationship because I'm like, but mommy, I needed you.
Of course. And because, as you said, that she also suffered greatly as a child and then had a child when she's still a child.
And that's something I talk about greatly in my book, because there's pain between my mother and I, but we still love each other greatly. But she was also just a little girl that was dealing with insane people.
Yeah.
And she had no tools.
Yeah.
She did have a therapist that she talks of often, but she resorted, unfortunately, to drugs during her teenage years. And she talks about how that it really destroyed her.
Yeah. And the reason she took drugs, of course, was to numb her own pain.
Absolutely.
So, that's why what you're saying to us today about being so committed and intentional about generational trauma that you want to interrupt this pattern in your family story.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not just on my mom, my dad my dad was actually conceived out of rape, and he grew up to an insanely abusive father, and his full brother is the one who had abused me, and both of my parents' childhoods were just unspeakable, truly.
I love this part of your story, though, that I've only learned recently about your dad. Can you tell our listeners about your relationship with your dad now and how it's changed?
Yes. So, to be quite honest with you, growing up, I was close with my dad, but I honestly never really felt like he was in my corner. Well, I know he was, but he never showed up. He was never the first one there for any of my plays or any of that, Tim was.
Mm.
My dad struggled with alcoholism greatly. He is now sober, and I am so proud of him.
I love that your dad's sober because I knew your dad.
Yes.
I know your dad. And what a talented, bright light and so full of faith, but the drugs and alcohol, he couldn't experience healing or the sunlight
Right.
of the spirit until he found recovery. So
Absolutely.
he comes into your room today and says,
I know.
maybe just tell the story.
I know he had a cappuccino and a bottle of water with our favorite electrolytes, and he was like, drink this, we're gonna pray. And it was just, it was exactly what I needed. So to speak on that more, like I told you a year ago today, I actually moved back home. Kind of whenever all of this stuff happened with Tim, I was like, I need to spend a few years out of South Carolina.
Yeah.
So I did move away, and I've recently moved back, and I decided to live with my dad, and it has been more than healing. We No, I think that my favorite thing that we do together, which I remember one time you said something to me like, find an activity that you don't have to talk the whole time, and like a movie or but we do hot yoga together. And it's very full circle because we're practicing at Jiva, where I can remember being 7 years old, sitting in the back room doing my homework at the desk because my mom was a massage therapist there. And I took mini classes with her growing up. So I actually told my dad the other day, I was like, so I was writing and I was like, how beautiful is it that one of my favorite things that my mom and I did do, and kind of the only times that I felt like maybe we were spiritually connecting, was in these hot yoga classes. And that's exactly what my dad and I have been doing. And it's been really lovely.
Oh, I love that. And then ironically, another connection is I met your mother
I know.
at a yoga
At
class.
Jiva, right?
Yes, at Jiva.
That's wild.
And that's where she asked me to work with you. So this Jiva connection
I know.
is pretty profound.
It's been a very healing spot.
It is a very healing
I know.
spot.
We'll have to shout out to Jean.
Yeah, shout out to Jean. I love that. Yeah, so when you're listening to this, for our listeners, is that we live in a place, it's a resort, Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, but it's so much more than that. It's a really small community, especially back then.
Yes.
Less so now, but the people that are old timers here all know each other.
My mom used to say there used to be one stoplight on Hilton.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And if you were late for work on 278, it was because you were behind a tractor.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm not kidding. I wish I was kidding. But no, it was that pristine and that beautiful, but so connected. And everybody kind of knew each other's business. So when you say how hard this was to decide to tell this story, because the name Herndon and Cook are recognizable names here, and especially when your uncle went to prison. And so, but the way you framed this story, Destiny, I believe that others can hear it, that there's a lot of forgiveness in this story. How has forgiveness helped you with your healing?
I think the biggest person that I've had to forgive is myself. Because seriously, for my whole, it seems like existence, I have felt so dirty, so tainted, so innocent, stolen, as well as dealing with lots of emotional abuse, I would say, from both mom and dad, as well as their significant others at the time. And lots of people who were very immature. And I remember you telling me so many times, and it's just so beautiful now because I did not know this at the time, but you used to tell me so many times, what can they really do to hurt you? Because when I was a teenager, I obviously felt so stuck. I feel so free now. Like, I feel so in control of myself. And another thing I would like to say that I've really kind of learned is I am not my mind.
Oh, will you say that again?
So the saying is, you are not your mind.
Or your thoughts.
Exactly. I the brain is a sponge and it will tell you the craziest things. And I think that I've told myself my whole life, since this has happened to you, you are so dirty. And so forgiving myself for, allowing myself to feel that label. And now knowing I'm actually very worthy. I am actually very lovable and worthy of everything.
Oh, Destiny, it really touches me to hear you say that. Because so often other people see in us what we can't see.
Oh, yes.
And I've always seen you as this resilient, bright, talented young woman who had so much to offer the world.
Thank you.
And you're doing it. And I'm so excited about your book that I hope we can, if I can help in any way,
Thank
with
you.
publishing, that it gets out there.
Yes, me too.
Before we close today, is there anything that you would like to add? I know we've talked about doing a follow-up episode, but for this episode, is there anything you haven't said that you really want to say?
Yes, actually. I want to say to anybody listening, if you have experienced some of the things that we've talked about today, or you know somebody who is experiencing this, young or old, please tell somebody.
Yeah.
Please tell somebody that you trust, and it will be very scary. I've looked at many people who I've thought, people you never really know how somebody's going to respond to that, but it is very important to get yourself help. You are not dirty, you are not in trouble. You are loved and you deserve to be and feel safe.
That's beautiful, Destiny.
Thank you.
It's wonderful advice. And before we close, I want to gently acknowledge that today's conversation included themes of early childhood sexual abuse. And for some of you, this may have stirred some memories, sensations, or even emotional activating feelings. So please take care of yourself. You are always welcome to pause, step away, and reach out for support. What I want to highlight with Destiny, so she said it so beautifully, is that yes, tell someone, but tell someone that you feel can hear your story. Because so many people tell, and I want to give your mother credit for taking you to the hospital. So many, even parents, dismiss it because they cannot believe that the person that the child has said, did this to me, mommy, could ever do that. And it's natural for you to believe that your brother, your sister, your uncle would never do that to your child, but yet most of this early childhood sexual abuse happens within the family or someone very close to the family, and people just don't know. And not because they wouldn't want to protect you, they just aren't aware. Like your grandparents were bedridden, sleeping, they had no idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I feel it is so important to talk about it. Even though, like I said to you yesterday, I'm scared to talk about it, but I'm not going to let that fear hold me back anymore. I feel that I feel responsible to share it.
Yeah. And there's a statistic out there that if you have at least one adult that is reliable in your life, you and I have talked about our grandmothers.
Absolutely.
Was she the adult that was just sort of your steady person that helped you walk through this? How did your grandmother play a role in this story?
My grandmother, she didn't really play a role in this specific story with my uncle. She never played a mother role to me. She taught me how to cook and how to clean and how to dress appropriately and a lot of things that I did not learn. And I mean, my relationship with her, she taught me so much. But she was actually one of those people who was very unable to speak of this subject, actually.
Well, of course.
Yeah, she was actually molested herself by her mother. And it was so painful for her. And when I had finally kind of told her, she actually got cancer and soon passed away after. So she wasn't really a part of this story, but that does not take back from any of the times that she was there for me because she really was a doll.
Yeah, well, she didn't know the story, but she stood by you. You were her, and I don't think your grandmother is wrong about being a second chance baby. My grandmother actually articulated that to me.
Absolutely.
You are my second chance. And so I think that your grandmother, as I remember you talking about, look at the way she dresses, and you were proud of your grandmother, and you were protective of her as well.
I was. I feel the need to honor her and honor her name. I mean, she was very naive when a lot of things happened to her, and she talks about how she wished a lot of things happened differently.
Sure.
She didn't really have much control over herself, being that it was 1940s, 50s, and she kind of just she lived in a she honestly lived in a lot of regret, and she was very open with that about me, and I'm very thankful for that because she wanted me to not make the same mistakes that she did.
Thank you, Destiny. And what a great way to end our episode, just thinking about your grandmother in the 1940s and how far we think women have come in our world.
And yet,
here we are with this worldwide investigation about powerful men and women taking part in the sexual abuse story. And so your willingness to share your story at this time is profound to me.
Thank you so much.
And I'm so grateful that I get to sit with you as you're recovering from all this trauma and get to know you and be your friend. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you so much. That was lovely.
All right, everybody. And I want to thank you for listening today. And we really hope that you'll take away something from the blueprint today that will help you connect better with yourself, maybe with others that have been through such a difficult and painful part of their history. We look forward to seeing you the next time on the blueprint, where we're going to continue to investigate ways that we recover. We recover from divorce, we recover from sexual abuse, we recover from trauma, and that's all possible. So hold on to what's coming next, and also realize that anything that's going on in your life, anything is possible when you're ready to heal. Have a really beautiful day. Thank you.